you ask me the question and then I'll respond, okay?
Yep, that works perfectly. Okay. So, what area did you grow up?
So I grew up in central Pennsylvania,
Okay.
State College.
So, would you say it's a particularly rural or suburban area?
More rural,
Okay.
yeah.
Did your family have any connections to this area, or they just always sort of lived there?
Um, my grandfather got a teaching job at Penn State, so he moved right after I was born, and my mom moved also so she could live near her parents.
Okay.
I was born closer to here.
All right.
hmm
So, your early schooling how did that look like per se, like elementary to K-12?
Um, I went to Catholic school from preschool through 8th grade. Then I went to the main public high school in State College um, for high school, and after that I went to Villanova.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
So, living when you first grew up, sort of around that Penn State area,
hmm
did that have any influence on like maybe you picking a college, or were you like felt pressured to go to college anyway, or not really?
I think I considered going to Penn State because it was so close,
Yeah.
and a lot of people assumed I would go there, but I chose to go somewhere else because it's such a big school and it's so close to home, and I felt the need to have an experience being independent and also be at a smaller school so I could be in smaller classes, get to know my professors better, etc.
Right. Yeah, the bigger schools are more just like a number per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up, what did like a typical Sunday look like for you? Was there like any church involved or Sunday school or anything like that?
A typical Sunday looked like getting up, going to church, going to the grocery store, coming home, having lunch as a family, maybe watching football.
Yeah.
hmm
Was it Penn State football?
Penn State on Saturdays,
Ah.
Eagles on Sundays. Yep.
Yep. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Was there any like real turning point for either you or your family that like caused you guys to become religious, or were you guys just always raised from a religious standpoint?
Yeah, definitely something that's been passed down for as long as I can remember. My great great grandparents, I've heard a little bit about them. My great grandparents, I actually had the blessing of knowing them in my younger life, and then my grandparents continued the Catholic tradition, and so did my parents. So it's just been passed
Okay.
down.
Alright. Um.
It's good. It's still recording. Okay. I need to.
Yeah. Okay. That should be okay. So after you left, well, were you in college? What did you particularly study? Was it like, did you know what you were gonna do before you went in there, or?
That's a good question. No, I didn't know at all. I When I applied to schools, I chose different majors on every single application. I had so many interests, so I really had no idea. And then I got to college and ultimately chose English and Spanish. So I was a double major in both of those.
Okay.
hmm
When you were in college per se, did you like sort of plan for your life after college? Because I had a brother who did that. When he left college, it's like everything sort of changed, and those plans kind of went out the window. So, did you have any experiences like that, or?
I think I had some idea for what I thought my life would be like when I was in high school, and then I got to college and it started changing a little bit. And then after I graduated, I left the country for a year. I lived in Ecuador, and that changed things even more and led me to Cabrini. So that's where I am. But I didn't expect to be working in campus ministry.
Okay. So you went to Ecuador for a year.
hmm
What made you particularly decide to do that?
So I had some friends who had become volunteers after graduating Villanova, and the thought was interesting to me. So I talked to them about their process of deciding to do that, why they wanted to do it, and I started researching programs on my own. I knew I wanted to do long-term volunteer work, and I found this program that I got to experience for a week as a college student. I really love with it and knew that it was something I wanted to apply to for the future, so I applied and everything worked out. I also wanted to be somewhere where I could use my Spanish and really solidify it so I could use it in the future.
Okay, so that pretty much came in handy for the most
Oh,
part.
for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so that was a year?
Yeah, 1 year.
Oh. What were your friends' reactions? I mean, that's kind of a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time. I think people were surprised that I was actually going to go through with it. A lot of people didn't want me to go, my family, because they were going to miss me, of course, and they were kind of worried about me. Some people didn't understand why you would choose to volunteer when you could be getting paid. I understand why they would feel that way. But I just felt that it was something that was going to be important for my life, and I was right. I'm glad I went.
Okay, was there anything like sort of like drove you from the inside that made you want to do this? Or was like any like passion per se that you had for that?
Yeah, it's recording, right? I'm just so afraid it's not because it's black. Is it still going?
Yep, it's recording.
Oh, it is. I know you know how it works better than me, but I just was confused about it for a second. Alright, anyway, sorry. Go ahead. What was the questions?
Was there like a inner passion you had that like drove you to do this, or?
Good question. I think I've always had a desire to serve and help other people. And when I was in college, I had done, different forms of volunteer work, but they were always temporary. I might have done it for a semester, for a year. At the most, I stayed with one thing for 4 years of college, but it wasn't something that was my everyday. It might be an hour a week, or it might have been 2 hours a week or something. And I wanted to have a volunteer experience that was going to impact me on a deeper level and really change the way I lived my life, which is what Ecuador did for me.
Okay, so this is like long term. You're immersed in there.
Yeah,
immersion.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, being there, was there any like, I don't want to say hostilities, but like maybe cultural differences at first you had to like sort of jump over and sort of like learn their differences you had to make do of?
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural differences. I'm trying to think which ones were pretty tricky for us. Well, we had to learn so many things. We had to learn how to buy food at the store, which was a little different. We had to learn how to call the bus when we had to catch the bus. We had to learn things that were rude to say, or how you could be respectful to somebody, because those things change culture to culture. Appropriate ways to greet people. We had to learn about faith and what it looked like within this particular community. We had to get some political background so that we could understand some of the context of where we were living. So there were definitely a lot of things. We had to understand that time worked differently there. If something was supposed to start at 2 o'clock, it might not necessarily start until 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and that was something that was really different from what we're used to here in the United States.
There are times like more relaxed in like Central America. It's more like a general time, they say.
So South America, yeah.
Okay.
No problem. Yeah, the time did look really different.
Alright.
And another thing was like people took a lot of pride in their appearance, so people were always, very clean. Their clothes were very clean and ironed and pressed and this and that. So, if you were to go visit somebody or go out in public and your clothes were wrinkled or maybe dirty, people may think that you don't really respect yourself because you're not presenting yourself in a way that looks like you really take care of yourself and care about your appearance. So that was different, because I know here, kids wear pajamas to class sometimes, or sweatpants in public, or don't fix your hair, or whatever it is, which here it's no problem, but if you were to do that in Ecuador, it sends a different message, and that was helpful to learn as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And schools, there's so many things I could tell you. So many things.
Okay, well, what was some of the, like, what did a day-to-day, a typical day in Ecuador look like for you?
That's a good question. Yeah, there was no typical day. I could tell you a few things that stayed consistent, but for the most part, everything was changing a lot. every day I had to go to my job site, which was an after-school program where I worked with about 80 kids a day who were ages 5 to 15. I helped them with their homework. We fed lunch to about half of the kids who had the most socioeconomic need, I suppose, based on their household income. And then once the kids finished their homework, we got to play with them a little bit. So we would play soccer or something, and so that's something I did every day. When I wasn't at work, some days I worked from the morning to the evening. Other days I only worked in the afternoon. Some days I had to cook for the other people that I lived with. Otherwise, I visited people in the neighborhood where I lived, spent time in their homes, learned about them and their families, might have helped them with things with their children, but a lot of it was really just getting to know people.
Okay, that sounds more interesting than I thought it would be.
Yeah. It was interesting and really busy.
Was there like an area you sort of like you lived permanently, or?
Can you hold me 1 second?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm
I
doing
just
an
wanted
interview.
to say thank you for your palanca. It was really nice. Thank you. Love you. Thank you for this weekend. It was amazing. Mm-hmm.
She's so cute. Okay. What was that?
Did they have you like move around at all, or you sort of living in the same spot?
In Ecuador. So yeah, I lived in the same spot. I lived in a house with, see the picture behind you, those people? 8 of us. We lived together in a house. We each had our own room, but we shared a living space and we shared the kitchen area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Financially, were there any strains or?
Yeah, definitely. We were given money for food every month that we shared, so we had to figure out how to divide it so it was, so it lasted the month, and so we all were able to use it. And then we were given money for transportation. So, for example, I spent about 50 cents of transportation every day, 25 cents to get to work, 25 to get home. And then we were each given a personal stipend of $50 per month, which is not a lot for a month.
Yeah, I'm thinking that doesn't.
Yeah, but we didn't really have a lot that we had to buy, and prices were different. Ecuador uses the U.S. dollar, but prices of things were very different. For example, a pepper costs 10 cents, whereas if you go to Giant down the road to get a pepper, it's going to cost you $2 for a pepper, for example. We might buy ourselves like an ice cream treat or something that probably costs like 60 cents, maybe 80 cents. So we didn't have a lot of things. We might buy ourselves little snacks or things like that, but mostly what we spent our money on was using the internet. So we didn't have internet at our home. We would go to a little, I don't know what you'd even call it. It was called a cyber. And you go in and there's all these different stations with a computer at each one, and you paid by the minute. So each minute was 1 cent. So if you stayed for an hour, that'd be 60 cents.
Okay.
And that's what we used to contact our families. And then any money we didn't use during the month, we would save for travel, and for souvenirs and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay. Was there anyone there you sort of leaned on for help, or when you were like confused about anything, and sort of like a guy you had to sort of show you the steps? Or?
Yeah, so we had a director. Her name is Darcy. She worked in country with us. She visited us once a week at our house, had dinner with us, and she was a great resource. She had been a volunteer herself, so she knew a lot. And she was there to answer our questions. She was there to check in with us, make sure we were doing okay, and certainly acted as a guide for sure.
Okay. Would you say you how can I word this? How would you say you really like impacted the people there, like sort of left your legacy, per se, like left your mark there?
Yeah, I think as humans, it's our natural tendency to want to leave a legacy. We want to leave an impact. We want to know what are we leaving behind. But I think a lot of what my experience in Ecuador was about wasn't so much what am I leaving behind. It was more so about what am I giving in this present moment. So, I knew people that were going through different challenges in their life. Challenges that I couldn't really do much about. But in the moment when somebody was experiencing something challenging, I could be with that person and share in mutual care, with that person. To be in a relationship of love and care, where both of us were recognizing the presence of God in each other, I suppose. But it's hard knowing that there's things you want to change, but you can't change them. It's really hard to accept that and to sit with that, especially when you see somebody that you love suffering, so as far as a legacy, I don't know. I think people felt cared for when I was in their presence in the same way I felt cared for when I was with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after leaving, what's the one thing you miss about being in Ecuador?
Oh, there's more than one.
Oh.
If I had to say one thing I miss, well, I didn't have my phone when I was there. We weren't allowed to bring our phones. So,
the whole time?
Yeah, the whole year.
Wow.
I know. Thanks. Yeah, that's something else. So I think, being really connected to the people around me, that's what I miss. Because we didn't have our phones in my house. We didn't have cable. We had a DVD player that was kind of broken. So we might watch something on that, but otherwise we talked to each other. We made each other laugh. We were creative and came up with things to do. I spent a lot of time with people, and there was nothing to distract me from people, so that's something I miss very, very much. I didn't have to answer emails. I didn't have to check my phone for what time it was for my next appointment. I was very liberated to just be present in the moment.
Yeah, but it's a relief in one way, so.
Yeah.
So when you came back here, was there like a weird transition period? Did it feel odd being back here at first, or?
Yeah, these are good questions. It definitely was so hard coming home. I don't think I started to feel normal per se for at least a year.
Wow. Yeah.
But it was hard in the beginning. I didn't want to leave my bed. I was crying a lot. I didn't really have much energy to do anything. I didn't really want to even spend time with my family, which is crazy because I went a whole year without seeing them. But I think I felt like I had an experience that changed me so deeply, and everybody around me I didn't feel had changed. It's like you go and you change a lot, and then you come back to your same friends and family, and they haven't had the same experience. So you suddenly have something that's creating some sort of distance between you, if that makes sense. Yeah, but I leaned on the people that I lived with because we were all going through that same transition. So when things were hard, I'd call them on the phone. I had one person living not far. He was living pretty close, so we would see each other a decent amount.
Okay.
But yeah, it was very hard.
So after you sort of got your footing per se,
Yeah.
how does, in a sense, Cabrini sort of come into the picture?
So 2.5 weeks after coming home, I started working at Cabrini.
Oh, that soon?
That soon.
Wow.
Yeah. So I wasn't really, how ready could I have been? I didn't feel that ready to start working full time, but I did the best I could. Something that was helpful is Father Carl, who's my supervisor. He has been to Ecuador a lot, and he had some sense, even though he didn't quite understand fully because he had never lived there for an extended period of time, he had some sense of where I was and what I was going through. So he was very understanding and, always allowed me a space to talk about it and, didn't hold it against me if I was having an off day or something like that. So that was definitely helpful at that time.
Yeah.
And Cabrini was great because Cabrini is it's a community, and the one thing that I had in Ecuador that was so special was a community of people within my home where I lived, within the neighborhood where I lived. So coming to Cabrini, it was like I was missing one community, but I was finding another one.
Okay. So in a sense, could you say it maybe filled a void a little bit, being here per se?
Yeah, maybe in some sense.
Yeah.
It's really so different, but it definitely eased the even though it was a harsh transition, I couldn't imagine a better place to have been going through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been here since 2015.
Yeah.
What do you like about
Good
most?
memory.
Yeah,
Did I tell you that?
I think so.
That's great.
So you've been here for like, I guess 4 years, is it now?
This is my fifth, yeah.
Oh, fifth. Okay, so what do you like most about this university?
Yeah, good question. Probably what I just said. I really like that at Cabrini. It really does feel like a community here. I know employees from every department. Whether we work directly together or not, being here has allowed me the opportunity to get to know people from all different departments. I know faculty here, even though I'm staff. I know people that work in the kitchens. I know people that work in the library. I know people that work in science and history and everything all over campus. In business office, it really has allowed me the opportunity to get to know others. And I think that's one of Cabrini's goals, is that the people that work here feel like they're part of something, and I definitely feel that way.
Okay. If I can I feel that too, sort of being a student here, it's like more, how do I put this in words? Like more than just sort of like going to school. It's like a little more than that. If you could change one thing about Cabrini, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think communication could be improved. Not the department. The department is wonderful, to clarify. Communication in general, I think often I bump into people not being on the same page about things. So you have to send an extra email, make an extra phone call, make sure this person knows what that person did and that person knows what this person did. So that can be a headache sometimes.
That's weird. Even as a student, I would have said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I just wish, like, I don't know, that they would, like, communicate with us a little more, like, just even about little stuff, like when they're closing the kitchen or when they're blocking the roads off. It's just, it gets frustrating after a while. It feels like, not necessarily left in the dark, but just like why can't they just tell me, like, little simple things, you know?
Yeah, I think it could be a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
Those are all great questions, right?
Yeah. See. So what departments here sort of would you say you get along with the most? Outside, like, per se, campus ministry.
Yeah. I love the Wolfington Center. They work right across the hall, and I know Megan and Ray well, so definitely them. I really enjoy the education department. I'm taking graduate classes here, so I know a bunch of the faculty.
Okay.
And they work right down the hallway, so I get to know them pretty well, too.
Alright. Is there any departments you, like, don't really communicate with that much, or?
Good question. A lot of the people that work in the mansion, I don't really see them very much. They tend to be over there, and I'm usually over here. Some of the professors that work in Adirola, I see them if they have class in Founders, but otherwise I wouldn't really see them much either. And then athletics, again, the opportunity to see them is not that frequent. They're usually in Dixon and don't pass through as much.
Yeah, I think I've once been in a mansion, like, a year.
Really, it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't even know there were offices upstairs until I had to go up there. It was like, oh, there's people that actually work here, so, man. What else? Would you say some of the students you work with, do they see, like, they maybe voice concerns about the university at all, or are they fairly satisfied with it?
I think students want their voices to be heard. not only that, I think students want to see changes that reflect their voice. So I think Cabrini sometimes does a good job at saying, come to us students, tell us what you feel, what you think. From what I've heard, some students feel that Cabrini could do a better job responding to those thoughts and opinions and feelings.
Okay. Yeah, for me, sometimes I see I'll see students voice complaints, and it's some of the complaints I heard, it's just other ones, just I won't say forgotten about, but they just focus their attention on one area, but maybe not the other. Yeah. What else? At the university itself, I don't have too many complaints. I think they do everything okay, and some stuff I think they do better than others. It's sort of that. Oh, I meant to ask you earlier was, since you've been here, what changes, I mean to say, have you seen occurring on the university? Because I've been here since late 2016. I've seen a lot of changes happen.
Yeah. I've seen the same changes as you. Considering the construction, we have the new residence hall, we have the Dixon Center, which is so nice. Cabrini changed its name from college to university. That happened, summer of 2016, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And we're having the nursing program that's going to start soon. Yeah, that's a pretty good example of some things that have changed. I've seen a lot of change in administration and faculty and staff.
Has the student body changed a lot over the years?
Since I started, I haven't really noticed much change.
Okay.
From what I hear, over the past 10 years or so, yes.
Yeah, I just heard someone who, I guess they'd be an alumni by now, but they said since 2014 to now it's become more diverse, so I wouldn't know that for sure, but it's that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, that's what I hear as well.
Okay. Other than that, it's just, I think they just developed a couple more programs, like the nursing one, that's still being built, right? Yeah, I think I know one person who's either heading it or is helping them to coordinate it, so it's like a work in progress.
Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah. Do you know what year that's going to be ready? Because I've heard that since spring of 2018. I've been hearing about that.
Yeah, I think spring 2020, I think.
Okay.
That's what I hear. Or fall 2020, I'm not sure.
It's either a year or a couple months away. Not too far. I think the main points for me have been covered. I think that's about it.